आप आइए लखनऊ लिटफेस्ट में, वहीं मुलाकात होती है। लखनऊ लिटफेस्ट का खेला इस बार लखनऊ यूनिवर्सिटी के साथ। जी हाँ, ये लखनऊ यूनिवर्सिटी है। इसने पिछले 100 साल से अज्ञानता के खिलाफ जंग छेड़ रखी है। वैसे जंग से याद आया, काफ़ी शूटिंग भी हुई है इसमें, अरे फिल्मों की। आप आइए लखनऊ लिटफेस्ट में, वहीं मुलाकात होती है। लखनऊ लिटफेस्ट का खेला इस बार लखनऊ यूनिवर्सिटी के साथ। जी हाँ, ये लखनऊ यूनिवर्सिटी है। इसने पिछले 100 साल से अज्ञानता के खिलाफ जंग छेड़ रखी है। वैसे जंग से याद आया, काफ़ी शूटिंग भी हुई है इसमें, अरे फिल्मों की। आप आइए लखनऊ लिटफेस्ट में, वहीं मुलाकात होती है। लखनऊ लिटफेस्ट का खेला इस बार लखनऊ यूनिवर्सिटी के साथ। जी हाँ, ये लखनऊ यूनिवर्सिटी है। इसने पिछले 100 साल से अज्ञानता के खिलाफ जंग छेड़ रखी है। वैसे जंग से याद आया, काफ़ी शूटिंग भी हुई है इसमें, अरे फिल्मों की। आप आइए लखनऊ लिटफेस्ट में, वहीं मुलाकात होती है। लखनऊ लिटफेस्ट का खेला इस बार लखनऊ यूनिवर्सिटी के साथ। जी हाँ, ये लखनऊ यूनिवर्सिटी है। इसने पिछले 100 साल से अज्ञानता के खिलाफ जंग छेड़ रखी है। वैसे जंग से याद आया, काफ़ी शूटिंग भी हुई है इसमें, अरे फिल्मों की। आप आइए लखनऊ लिटफेस्ट में, वहीं मुलाकात होती है। लखनऊ लिटफेस्ट का खेला इस बार लखनऊ यूनिवर्सिटी के साथ। जी हाँ, ये लखनऊ यूनिवर्सिटी है। इसने पिछले 100 साल से अज्ञानता के खिलाफ जंग छेड़ रखी है। वैसे जंग से याद आया, काफ़ी शूटिंग भी हुई है इसमें, अरे फिल्मों की। आप आइए लखनऊ लिटफेस्ट में, वहीं मुलाकात होती है।
I just had my tea before the thing. So, yeah.
वो
Okay,
पानी
yeah.
है।
We are live. We are live. Okay. So, so hello everyone, and a very good evening to all of you. And I believe it's still afternoon at your place, Amish. So
Yes, yes, yes.
yes. So just giving a quick introduction, and then we'll start. I'm Meenakshi Upadhyay Sharma, and on behalf of the Lucknow Expression Society, I welcome all of you to the online spring session of the Metaphor, that is the Lucknow Literature Festival. Now, for your information, the inauguration ceremony of the eighth edition, which is this edition of the Metaphor, the Lucknow Literature Festival, was held yesterday at the University of Lucknow. The festival otherwise would have been a 3 day event where our celebrated guests would have interacted live with the audience, but due to the COVID pandemic, the society had to make do with the best options available. As such, the program is now being extended to 7 evenings, wherein all interactions will be held online starting today. So, welcoming all of you to the first online session of the spring season of the Metaphor. Now, today's session is called as Decoding the Epics. And who better than our own celebrity authors, Amish Tripathi and his sister, Ms. Bhavna Roy, to talk about this topic. And as they have passionately devoted their lives to decode the epics and Indian mythology, and actually more than the Indian mythology. So let me quickly introduce the famous author siblings to you. Ladies first. So Miss Bhavna Roy, Mrs. Bhavna Roy was educated in Missouri, Pune, and Mumbai. After graduating in psychology from Mumbai University, she qualified for the IAS, having trained partly at the Missouri campus in for the administrative service. She quit and then worked first as a volunteer in a school for special children in Malegaon and then in an NGO in Nasik called SOS. She then tutored secondary and higher secondary students in software engineering in Mumbai. She's the wife of the late Himanshu Roy, IPS senior police officer of the Maharashtra cadre, and she lives in Mumbai. And now, coming to our author, Amish Tripathi is also a diplomat, author, and columnist, as you know. He has taken over as the director of the Nehru Center in London in 2019 October. Amish has been listed amongst the top 50 most powerful Indians by the India Today magazine, and the Forbes India has counted him regularly as the top 100 most influential celebrities in India. He was also selected as an Eisenhower Fellow. Then Amish has published his first book actually in 2010, which is now over a decade, and has written 9 books till date. The Shiva trilogy, as we know very well, and the Ramchandra series are some of his most famous books. His books have sold 5.5 billion copies and have been translated into 10 Indian and 9 international languages. Amish is an alumnus of the prestigious Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta. He worked for 14 years in the financial services industry before turning to writing. He has recently written a book, Dharma, together with Mrs. Bhavna, and that is the focal point of our conversation today. And for those who are wondering who I am, well, a quick note just about me, and this is the most awkward part. So I'm Meenakshi Upadhyay Sharma, alumnus of IIM Bangalore, entrepreneur, author, and coach, a life member of the Lucknow Expression Society. I'm the co-founder of MindWorks, an edtech company headquartered at Connaught Place, New Delhi, which I co-founded with my husband. Cannot take away the accolades from him, who's also from IIM Bangalore and a fabled cat guru, as he's called. MindWorks is into training students and young professionals for aptitude exams and professional courses. And we are both authors for McGraw-Hill Education, also known as the Tata McGraw-Hill, having several best-selling books to our credit in that domain. And together we have sold more than 3 million copies. So that we are done with the introduction. And without any further delay, let me not keep the audience waiting. I welcome our guests again today on behalf of everybody. And so welcome Amish and Bhavna. And we start with this first question, which is for Bhavna. So, hi. We had invited Amish earlier also, but we would like to know, we would rather love to know about you. What made you leave a career in civil services and take the less traveled path into social service? And now you are into social work rather, and now you are into writing. So please do share your journey with us. We'll be glad.
My life really is a series of happy accidents. I quit the IAS because I fell in love. I married my husband. I had got Tamil Nadu cadre. My husband had got Maharashtra cadre. I initially went on leave and then just decided to stay put. The second smartest decision of my life, I say, was to quit the IAS.
How wonderful. How wonderful. I can totally, relate to that. Yes. So the next question to you, Amish. So, how are you finding this new position as the director of the Nehru Center in London? And please share that experience with us.
No, it's a fantastic experience. One gets an opportunity to contribute to Mother India and to all serious countries have cultural centers. So like the UK has the British Council in India and many other parts of the world. The US also has USIS and various other centers. So does Russia, so does China, all serious countries, France, they have it. So in turn, India also has such cultural centers across the world. And as we have become wealthier and more powerful over the last few decades, we've started taking this far more seriously. And one of the moves that the government decided post a review a few years back was because till now these centers used to be run by bureaucrats. And there was a thought that maybe just these cultural centers should be run by artists rather than bureaucrats, just as an experiment to see if they could engage with, the cultural parts of the host countries in a different manner. So I'm part of that experiment. And it's wonderful to be able to contribute to India. And this is a time of very exciting change. India is rising again after centuries of decline. And I think the last time something was on this scale, a country rising on this scale was seen, was in the 1990s and the noughties with China. And now we'll see it with India. And after this, I don't think, a transformation of this scale will be seen ever again. So it's a very exciting time to be an Indian, very exciting time to be contributing to this journey in my own small way.
Like the mythical phoenix, we are rising, and you and I and all of us are part of it. And that's
there was a time when we were the wealthiest, most powerful, most knowledgeable nation on earth. There's a economic historian called Angus Madison from the UK, and he had done analysis of GDP movements across the world for all of the first millennium. India contributed around 35% of the world's GDP. Just to give you a sense of perspective, the US contributes 25% of the world's GDP today. So India is relatively richer to the world than the US is today.
Remarkable, right? Yeah.
We had the best and oldest universities. We had the biggest population because our health facilities were among the best. We had huge hordes of knowledge, of wealth. Emperor Vespasian of Rome had banned trade with India in the 2nd century AD because Rome was going bankrupt, importing things from India and then sending gold as payment. And yes, we suffered under the invasions, first the Turks, then the Europeans. Now we are rising once again. It's an exciting journey.
Definitely. So let us take the interview forward. And can you just tell us, I know this question has been asked to you, I don't know how many times, but then we wanted for our viewers that you were a corporate professional, a financial corporate professional. And what made you give up everything and get into writing, and that too mythological stories with your own interpretations?
You can blame Didi for inflicting me on you because it was her idea. So that's basically
a wonderful idea, I must say.
So basically, family and I, we were watching TV and a philosophical idea had occurred to me at that time because we were seeing something interesting and a historical program. non-fiction history program. And philosophy occurred to me, an answer to this question, what is evil? And I told my family this, and they suggested I should write it down. So it began. The Shiva trilogy is the first book in Models of Melua.
Right.
It began as a pure philosophy thesis. Then I gave it to my family, and Didi and Ashish felt that perhaps I should try and write it as a story, so that the story can be a wrapper for the philosophy, and that's how it emerged.
Yeah, I mean, the way you interpret it and then put it into a real life.
Ashish is my twin brother. Sorry, I didn't.
I know.
Ashish is my twin brother.
Yes, the two
Bhavna
brothers who were announced by Bhavna when you were born, both of you. Yeah, so we saw that snippet. And so now this question is for both of you. How is, the experience of working and writing together? So does the sibling, feeling camaraderie come handy? Or are you faced with some challenges sometimes?
I think Didi should answer this. Bhavna Di?
Meenakshi, there is a big gap in age between Amish and me, 8-year gap. I'm a bit of a second mother to Amish. So on the one hand, there is a great deal of respect in one direction. He respects me a great deal as his elder sister. There is also a lot of respect in the opposite direction, not only towards Amish as a human being, as my brother, but also as Amish Tripathi, the author. I mean, he's, like I love to say, Amish Tripathi knows his onions.
We all agree with that, definitely. So, yeah. So again, I mean, you told about that, you are almost like a half mother, and that's what I have an elder sister who's 9 years older, and, I totally relate to that. So, I mean, I would want to, so the story that we heard of you as children when you announced, the birth of both your brothers together, and you said, I got two brothers, together. So our readers would love to know, you both as children, and Amish, you're also most welcome to pitch into this question. Any childhood stories that you would like to share with the audience?
No, I think the thing of my birth, Didi should say, because I have to tell you honestly, obviously I have no recollection of it. And Ma and Didi had told me what had happened when Ashish and I were born. So Didi, आप बताइए.
वो तो मीनाक्षी तुमने बता दिया कि when Ashish and Amish were born, I was 8 years old, and it was at 5 in the morning. In fact, of course, a 12-minute difference. Ashish was born, and then 12 minutes later Amish was born, and I went and rang every bell in the entire building. We lived in Chembur, telling everybody, "Mere do bhai ho, mere do bhai ho." But what I want to share is actually another story. When you said ki kahani bachpan ki, this story came to my mind. I must share it with you. So, as I mentioned, we lived in Mumbai, and Ashish, Amish were born, and, we went to Cathedral, Campion. Amish, my brother Anish and I, we were going to good schools in Mumbai. And then my father got transferred. He was working in L&T, and he got transferred to Roorkela, Kansbahal, which was, after Mumbai, it was really...
it is in Odisha, Western Odisha. It was a small colony almost, outside of a small town called Rourkela. Sorry.
It was 35 kilometers away from Rourkela in Odisha. This place called Kansbahal. And my mother, in her eminent wisdom, decided to send Anish and me to boarding school in Mussoorie, Weinberg Allen. Of course, Ashish and Amish were too young, so they were still with our parents. And the first holiday that Anish and I, returned home to, Mussoorie being a hill station, we used to take a 3.5-month break, winter break, because snow Mussoorie mein. So Anish and I came back home, and we had been away in boarding school for a long time, so obviously we got a lot of attention from mummy, from
You would have
papa.
been 5, 6, Didi, at that time? 5 or 6 years old?
Oh, 3, 4 years.
Acha, even younger.
And aunties and uncles calling us for lunches and for dinners. बहुत, attention मिल रहा था. And Ashish and Amish were also enjoying our, company. But then after a month or so, one of them, I forget who, either Ashish or Amish, went to mummy and said, "ये वापस कब जाएंगे?" They've been hanging around for too long.
Right.
My mother was absolutely alarmed, and thereafter, what she did is when Amish and I used to be away, she would meticulously share Anish and my bachpan ki kahaniyan with Ashish and Amish to keep Anish and I alive as the elder siblings in the consciousness of Ashish and Amish.
That's so thoughtful of her. That's true. Yeah, please.
One of the things, and this, my her mother is just so brilliant in that she had this, and she told us she'd read some of these in, some of the things are from Chanakya Niti on how children should be brought up. That you should be very strict till they are, you should give a lot of love till they are, I think, 6, 7 or something like that. Just drown them with love. Then after that, become very strict, okay? Very disciplined so that they become tough. And after 15, 16, just become a friend, okay? And she actually brought us up that way. And one of the key things that she had was that there should be no disagreements, no politics between the 4 of you siblings, So if we ever fought with each other, she would actually make us stand next to each other and then kiss each other's cheeks continuously, okay, for 10 minutes till we say sorry to each other or Baba nahi ladna. We used to get so sick of it that we would actually, for 4 siblings, we had very little fights, and even now we are very, very close to each other with our respective houses. Yeah.
So one
of the things Ma used to insist that 4 of you must always be together, no fighting.
Great. I mean, that's a wonderful way to bring up the children. And I hope all the young mothers there are listening. And so just one personal question. Do you still call, no, I don't know whether you call or not, but do you call your twin brother Bhaiya? Because he's a few minutes.
Didi, इसमें भी कहानी है.
Okay, so I
क्योंकि ऐसा है कि Ma used to insist कि I had to call him Bhaiya. And I think till, 3rd, 4th standard, I never argued against it. ठीक है, okay. He's 12 minutes elder, I would say Bhaiya. And the 4th standard, then we went to a boarding school, and then people would make fun of this because he's only 12 minutes elder. And Ashish started telling me, कि stop calling me Bhaiya, yaar. And so then when I had come home, I remember I told Ma, why do I have to keep calling him Bhaiya? I can understand Dada, Didi, him I should call Ashish. 12 minute में क्या फर्क पड़ता है? तो माँ से अच्छा बेटा यहाँ पे आओ, यहाँ पे बैठो मेरे गोदी में. मैंने कहा ठीक है. So he said 12 मिनट में कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता है ना? I said नहीं माँ, कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता है. So she held my nose and covered my mouth. Okay. So I couldn't breathe. And like after obviously 10-15 seconds, I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? So she said, बेटा तुमने तो कहा 12 मिनट में कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता है, ये तो सिर्फ 10-15 सेकंड थे. I will call him Bhaiya.
You got the point, huh? So it reminds me of
ultimately, I think it was by the time we reached Cathedral, which would have been 6th standard perhaps, when Ashish basically just insisted with me that please just stop. No Bhaiya now.
Yeah, because his friends must be teasing him, same class. So yeah, it reminds me of similar situation at my place, wherein my brother once, he was a small boy and he saw he's older 5 years, and he saw some Indian mythological serial, and then he used to and he was so influenced, so he said, I'll touch the feet of all the elders. And Minnie, they call me at home, so Minnie, since you are the youngest, and you are younger than me, so you will touch my feet and I will touch everybody's feet. So my father the next day said, please don't do that. And I also revolted. I said, no, I'm not going to touch your feet every morning and say, Bhaiya, give me Ashirwad. I hope he's not watching this. He's going to kill me. So yeah, so let's Okay, so moving now on a little serious note, and I read your book Dharma, and not just for the interview, I read it a little before that actually. And what I noticed was a lot of rhetoric, argumentation, dialogue, and it reminded me so much of Plato using Socrates as a guide, questioning and deriving wisdom through that. Your conversations that you had created between Nachiket, Dharmaraj, Lopamudra, and Gargi gave me a kind of a deja vu feeling. So, would both of you like to comment on that?
Didi, may I just I'll make a thing? So, no, you're right. This is in some ways resonant of the Platonic dialogues, but that wasn't the model for this, because the model was actually far more ancient than Plato. The model is actually the Upanishads. Our culture, our traditions, our scriptures, we're not a way of life of one book. We're a way of life of an entire library. It's frankly humanly impossible for any one individual to have read all our scriptures. There's just so many, and they're so deep and thought-provoking. And if you see all our scriptures and texts, right at the highest level are the Upanishads. So the Ramayana and Mahabharata are the first standard, for example. Then, you go through various texts. The Vedas would be at the graduation level, and Upanishads would be post-graduation level. And practically all of the Upanishads are structured as conversations, not in the form of the, non-fiction books that you see today. They're structured as conversations. There's a value to that, and I'll expand on that a bit later once Didi also answers on what's the value of structuring it as a conversation as compared to the modern non-fiction book.
Yeah,
but the thing is that if you see even the names we've used in the book are actually drawn from the Upanishads. So that actually is itself a clue. Yes. So Dharmaraj and Nachiket, Katha Upanishad, Gargi from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, so the names are actually from there, and therefore it's structured as conversation. Just becomes easier to absorb. Sorry, Didi.
No, you're absolutely right. No doubt the Platonic dialogues are in a similar format, Socrates, Glaucon. But we went back to the Upanishads. Rishika Lopamudra, is the wife of Rishi Agastya. Rishika Gargi is the wife of Rishi Yajnavalkya. And yes, the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad is a dialogue between Rishi Yajnavalkya and Rishika Gargi and Rishika Maitreyi. Both Rishika Gargi and Rishika Lopamudra are credited with having written some of the hymns of the Rigveda. Nachiket and Dharmaraj, have a resplendent conversation in the Kathopanishad Upanishad. Dharmaraj, of course, being Lord Yamraj himself. And Nachiket being the precocious child who's very reminiscent of Amish.
So we get back to the childhood tales again. And,
but then if I can add on what the value of a conversation is as compared to the non-fiction book that you see, today. The way non-fiction books are shown today, where, and it's a Western paradigm, which has now, become the global paradigm. How it normally works is like there'll be one hypothesis and the author kind of builds the case for that hypothesis through the book. This approach has its strengths, no doubt, but one of the downsides is this approach tends to increase tribalism after some time, because my task as an author is to say this is the truth and this is my backing to convince you that this is the truth. This obviously makes sense in a culture which believes in one truth. One truth, one God. You don't believe in this, you worship false gods. They have to either kill or convert those who worship false gods. It naturally over time leads to extremism. And it takes a lot of control to not surrender to extremism. In that there are many who don't. but it takes a lot of control. Conversations are naturally, because you represent both sides. That's the way Platonic dialogues are. That's the way Upanishadic dialogues are. So it naturally tends to become more centrist. Naturally, you don't have to try hard for it. That's one benefit of this approach. The second benefit of this approach is one of the best ways to learn is through question answers, right? Because someone might explain something to you, you don't get one point. A question arises, but you can't ask that in this structure of hypothesis plus backing for that hypothesis. In a conversation, people can ask questions. You can present points, counterpoints, right? And the third thing, that's the most important thing in this conversational approach, is it's never prescriptive. It never tells you this is the way and you have to follow it. No, it represents all sides. And then this conversational approach in the Upanishads and Platonic dialogues, the end is usually always what Lord Krishna also told Lord Arjun at the end of Bhagavad Gita, where Lord Krishna told Arjun that I have given you knowledge most profound. Your task is to think about it and then do what you think is right. Okay. So that kind of naturally emerges at the end of a conversational approach, which is why we think this approach is perhaps better to at least show Indic philosophies, because Indic philosophies by their very approach is not prescriptive. It is, these are the various approaches. Now you think about it and make your choice, make your decision.
Freedom to choose. And
exactly.
That's the best way to go about it. And actually, when I picked up the book and I was told it's a non-fiction, so I was like, okay, so this will, as you said, a hypothesis and then, some gyan and things like that. And when I picked it up, the first, I read the preface, and in that you have explained already, I saw that. And then when I saw it started with characters, so I was thrilled. I said, wow, this is like fiction in the non-fiction. And, it kind of made my day while reading it. So that was the wonderful part of it. And I finished it.
It also becomes an easier read, if you notice.
It does.
Conversations, it becomes an easier read. Something in the human, wiring, I guess, conversations just become easier to follow as compared to that.
Definitely.
The modern paradigm.
Right. So again, as you know, obviously all of us know that dharma as a concept, dharma or dharma as we call it, means many things to many people. But then what does it mean it means both to both of you in a very, very personal sense?
Didi,
Meenakshi, dharma is one of those words that defy constrainment, frameworking, definitions, enchaining. We Indians have certainly been discussing dharma for millennia, and we will be discussing it safely for the next millennia. Having said that, the root of the word dharma is dhru, to bind, to hold, to sustain. Dharma, in some sense, is the center, the kendra. The way a piece of life is meant to be. A piece of life, I say, because dharma, unlike religion, which is human being specific, dharma is applicable to all forms of life. The sun is in a state of dharma, the tiger to the lion to the elephant to the plants, the sticks and stones, including us, yes, human beings, we are engaged in karma to move towards dharma. Dharma is the way a piece of life is meant to be. The sun has attained this dharma, to live with rhythm and consciousness. We can safely say that the sun is going to rise tomorrow morning. It won't forget. It's in a state of complete dharma. In some sense, the plants and animals are also in a state of dharma. But they're the way they are meant to be. But the plants and the animals are in a state of dharma with absence of consciousness. The opportunity of human birth is to try and attain our best version in multiple lifetimes with consciousness. Now, that is the challenge. And that is, the meaning that life can give to our human existence.
Very, very lucidly and very simply explained. So that was wonderful. All right. So, and my next question, stems from what you told us about the animals and the lion. So there's a line in your book which you wrote, which says that the lion who is hunting is also doing his dharma, and the deer who is running away or trying to save his life is also doing his dharma. So it sounds a little ironical. I mean, could you talk about that?
Yeah, that incident is drawn from, we discuss an incident that's written in one of my books, Ravan, Enemy of Aryavarta, where the Kanyakumari is telling Ravan this story. And how complex dharma is, and that and often in the field of dharma, it's not what you do. What is equally important is also why you do what you do, right? So the context is extremely important. So before I get into this lion example, like say you take the context of violence, it's an example. It's an easily understandable example. So I've used this example often, that all of us common citizens have no right to take the law into our own hands and carry out violence. We don't. We have the right to protest. We have the right to everything else, but we have no right to carry out violence. If we do that, we should be punished according to the law. That is dharma, right? So it is a dharma for us to carry out violence. But a soldier at the border or a police officer preventing a riot, it is his or her dharma to carry out violence, right? Same act, but the context makes it either dharma or adharma, right? So the same that thought is perhaps expanded a bit in this hunt, where there is a lion who's a single lion, and this actually happens in the jungle. A pride is normally a few lionesses with one lion and their children. And as a lion gets old, as usually happens, it's a law of the jungle. So a younger lion will come and challenge the older lion. Often the older lion could just be killed, right? And often the older lion escapes. And what normally happens is that the younger lion then takes over the pride. The lionesses are part of his pride. And also what normally happens is that the younger lion kills the children of the older lion, the cubs in that pride. It's ruthless, but it's a law of the jungle, right? So what the Kanyakumari tells Ravan is that she was at this place, and in the meadow she sees a single lion with his cubs. So what does that mean? That the old lion escaped. He wasn't killed in his pride, and he somehow managed to save his children, his cubs, right? But he's an old lion, so he can't hunt as well, and his cubs can't hunt either, right? Now this lion across the meadow sees a mother, a doe, right, who has her children. And one of those children is a runt, was born weaker, is smaller. And the lion, being old and weak, knows that perhaps that runt I can kill and may not be enough for me, good enough for my children. And so the hunt begins. He starts chasing. The doe, the mother, sees the lion, bleats out a warning. Her children and the doe, the female deer, start running. And the mother deer realizes after some time that her runt child will probably not survive. So she slows down. And in a way inserts herself between the lion and the runt child. And after some time, this comes to a stop. In effect, basically sacrificing her life. Right? And then what happens in there is that the lion comes close to the female deer to the doe, and then the lion is confused why she stopped. And then the question arises, what does dharma say? What should the lion do? Should he be a good father and kill the doe to feed his starving children? That's his duty. Or should he be a good soul and gift a magnificent mother life, gift her life and not kill her, right? But if he does that, then his children will starve. What should he do? And this then is discussed in this thing that dharma is complex. And then the thought that emerges is that if the father, the lion, kills the deer to feed his children, then perhaps it's not, then that's dharma. That's not a dharma. He has to do it. Jivan jivanasya bhojanam. Life feeds life. But if he is hunting just for pleasure, as many human beings do, that is adharma, right? On the other hand, if the mother deer is being brave and sacrificing her life to save her family, that is dharma. But if she is tired and just giving up on life, that is adharma. So the context defines whether it's dharma or adharma. And that's what gets discussed in this incident. And then the key point is that at the end of it, it doesn't matter whether the lion killed the deer or not. That's not the point of the story. Point of the story is to use this to understand how complex dharma is and how context is often as important, if not more important, than your action itself. Which means that all of us in the dharmic way, all of us have to grow up, be adults, and understand the context. No one is going to come and give you a list of 10 rules which apply forever. Doesn't work that way. You have to understand the context. You have to grow up, be an adult, understand the context, do whatever you have to do, and then live with the consequences, positive or negative.
Right. So the motive and the intention and the eternal conflict, and that's what it is. Right.
Dharma is not easy.
It's not. It never is, actually. So, okay. So going forward, now your books are actually very relatable to the younger generation, my son being one of them who has read your books. And I've also read. And
okay, I should say hi to your son. What's your son's name?
His name is Shaurya.
Okay, Shaurya. Hi, Shaurya. I hope you're listening to this.
He is. And he's giving a big smile. So
maybe you should see him actually.
Next time, maybe.
Okay.
Setting. So coming back to my question. So I think his day is made. So your books are so relatable to the younger generation. And even though they are about mythological characters, and the young reader would rather pick up your book and read than divulge into the ancient scriptures, because, it's difficult to understand them and you put it across so lucidly. But that puts a responsibility on you also to treat the subject matter extremely carefully. So, how do both of you, since Bhavna ji is also now part of the writing group, and I think she's always been a part of your writing.
Yes.
So how do you both of you, deal with this responsibility also to communicate the right thing in the right manner to your readers?
If I may add just a small thing, then, I think it's best if Didi answer this. I don't think my books are good enough to replay. Those are the texts, and children will get to that. See my books as an introduction, as a very small contribution to a really to a heritage that I'm deeply proud of. It's a very, very small contribution. Secondly, one can never be sure if one is doing the right thing or not. What one can be sure of is, are you keeping your heart clean? That's all, right? So I try my best to do that. That I write with pride, with devotion, with love, and also with a questioning spirit, which is what our ancestors would expect. And then, then it's up to Lord Shiva. So I do the best that I can. I keep my heart clean. That's the way I see it. That's what my contribution should be. Didi, if you have.
Are we?
Hello? I think there's some internet trouble. Meenakshi, you've hung. Hello?
Meenakshi?
I think there's some internet trouble at her end, Didi. Are we still live, guys? If you can.
I think we'll just wait for some time.
Perhaps. Yes.
We'll
I think Meenakshi is probably having some. She's dropped off.
Yeah. I think
She'll come back. She'll come back, I'm sure. So, Didi, do you want to answer that also in the meantime till Meenakshi comes back? I guess we have to.
लखनऊ लिटफेस्ट का खेला इस बार लखनऊ यूनिवर्सिटी के साथ। जी हाँ, ये लखनऊ यूनिवर्सिटी इसने पिछले 100 साल से अज्ञानता के खिलाफ जंग छेड़ रखी है। वैसे जंग से याद आया, काफ़ी शूटिंग भी हुई है इसमें, अरे फिल्मों की। आप आइए लखनऊ लिटफेस्ट में, वहीं मुलाकात होती है। लखनऊ लिटफेस्ट का खेला इस बार लखनऊ यूनिवर्सिटी के साथ। जी हाँ, ये लखनऊ यूनिवर्सिटी इसने पिछले 100 साल से अज्ञानता के खिलाफ जंग छेड़ रखी है। वैसे जंग से याद आया, काफ़ी शूटिंग भी हुई है इसमें, अरे फिल्मों की। आप आइए लखनऊ लिटफेस्ट में, वहीं मुलाकात होती है। लखनऊ लिटफेस्ट का खेला इस बार लखनऊ यूनिवर्सिटी के साथ। जी हाँ, ये लखनऊ यूनिवर्सिटी इसने पिछले 100 साल से अज्ञानता के खिलाफ जंग छेड़ रखी है। वैसे जंग से याद आया, काफ़ी शूटिंग भी हुई है इसमें, अरे फिल्मों की। आप आइए लखनऊ लिटफेस्ट में, वहीं मुलाकात होती है। लखनऊ लिटफेस्ट का खेला इस बार लखनऊ यूनिवर्सिटी के साथ। जी हाँ, ये लखनऊ यूनिवर्सिटी
talking about you were saying that if you're honest to yourself and
as I said, I mean, if one approaches it with love, respect, devotion, then it'll reflect in the work. That's the way I see it. Didi?
Oh, there's not much more to be said. You're absolutely right. The keywords are love, respect, devotion, apnapan. You write with respect and love, and it will. Your real intentions have a way of coming through. It is lakh koshish kare chupane ki, but the heart has a way of getting through to the person on the other side. you may yourself not be, aware of your true intentions, but somehow others, sooner or later, become alive to your true intention. And if that true intention is love, respect, and devotion, it'll come through.
And so we are getting some questions from our audience, if we may.
Of course.
Yeah. So this question is from Dhanvi Ganatra, and she's saying, what is the one thing about Lord Shiva that you ardently believe in? And we had Mahashivratri just a day ago. So yes.
Yeah, he's Anant, no beginning, no end. How can you have just one thing on him? I don't think it's just devotion towards Lord Shiva. I'm almost in love with him. And he's, I think what truly attracts many of us towards Lord Shiva is that, and there's no disrespect to any other god, of course, god or goddess. But it's just that we get attracted to the kind of divine figure who resonates with what we are inside. And those of us who are naturally rebellious by nature, I guess, find him very attractive. Perhaps that's the reason why so many of the youth are so deeply attracted to Lord Shiva. He's so cool in many ways.
Yeah, careless, carefree.
Yeah. And but he's not. It's not that he's a rebel without a cause type. That he might exist outside of society, but he takes care of society. He treats his wife as an equal. He might be a bairagi, but he's takes care of his children. He's the originator of the Vedas, the originator of the arts, brilliant dancer, brilliant musician. So many apparently contradictory things, but they get reconciled in him. Yeah, I guess that's what makes him so attractive.
Right. Moving on to the next question by Aishwarya Bhatt. The question is, how have your novels influenced your perspective regarding your own life?
Didi, do you want to answer this? And then I can add how the novels how dharma has impacted your thoughts.
I think for any creative endeavor, it is an exchange between your experience of life and your expression of it in your creativity. It cannot be the one without the other. It's a bit of a dance. Your experiences make up your emotions, your thoughts, your expressions. It is an interchange for any piece of creativity, I would say.
Right. Would you like to add something to it?
Yeah. So for me, I think, look, my books have changed. I'd said this a few times before, that the biggest blessing of my books is not that it changed my world, is that actually changed me, my character. It's almost a 180-degree turn. I'm much calmer than I used to be. I was hyper competitive. I used to shout and scream a lot. I'm still competitive, but I'm not as hyper aggressive as I used to be. I know these days the thought is that, if you have to be competitive, you have to be one of those, shouting, screaming kind of guys. It's actually not true. I'm still competitive, but you can actually get a lot more done with a kind word. 99% of the time, if you're polite, you actually get your work done. There may be 1% cases where you have to be tough, and those times, yes, you should be tough. But shouting and screaming all the time is actually not productive. It's in so many ways my character has really changed. Our family, we've been through tough personal times in the last 4 or 5 years. And I genuinely believe that if I was the kind of person I was, 20 years ago, I don't know if I would have been able to handle this. And I think I've been able to handle this in whatever ways I could, because my character has changed. I've become calmer.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So moving on to the next question by Anshika Chaube, and she asks, one thing about his own works, that's about your works, which motivates you to continue writing?
For me, it's just, look, I just enjoy writing so much, man. It's like a spiritual experience. It's meditation in some ways for me. Because again, I've said this often before, I can't explain how the stories come to me. I can actually see that universe and I record what I see, right? And in so many ways, that universe is more real to me than the world that we live in now. Because in the world that we live in right now, I can't hear your thoughts. I can't feel your emotions. I can only communicate to you verbally. But in that universe, of which I write, I can hear the thoughts of the characters. I can feel their emotions. I cry with them. I laugh. In so many ways, it's so much more real, and I actually love spending time in that universe. So the best part about my books is actually the process of writing. It's nothing I enjoy more.
So it's like an alternate reality in which you exist while you're
which
writing.
only I get to see, and I absolutely
Get
love
jealous.
it.
But you make
And
us
not
feel.
everything that I see in there is recorded in the book. So I just see so many things in there. So that's the best part about writing for me, which is why no matter what I do in the rest of my life, I will keep writing. Whether people read it or not, I'll keep writing.
Big thumbs up to that. And
Didi,
Bhavna, I would like to ask you something. So when both of you were writing together, I mean, who was doing the typing, or was it together, or you shared and then you collaborated? I mean, what was the process? Could you just elaborate?
no, this I should answer, because how it happened in terms of the typing, because Didi is left-handed and I am right-handed. So we would sit together on the computer, and she would type with the left hand and I would type with the right hand, and we coordinated. And that's how
Wow, that's wonderful. That is an answer I could not have thought about.
No, that is my, see, you're not used to my stupid humor. So this is my stupid humor. Sorry, Didi, you answer.
So really, the way we work, Meenakshi, is, I write and then I send it to him. And then he writes and then he sends it to me. And then I write and I send it to him. And that's to and fro. And if any of the things that he has written or I have added, if there is a disagreement, then we speak with each other and resolve the disagreement. So that's the way we work.
Right, correct. So next question coming from Dhairya. In your book, characters become gods and by their karma. So what is the true process behind it, he's asking? What is the process behind, converting a mortal into an immortal, as you call it?
This comes down from our ancient traditions, actually, because it was believed that that the divine is in all of us. Aham Brahmasmi. So it means that I am God. But that's not a statement of ego. It's more like it's almost like a self challenge that I have that divine spirit in me. It is up to me to discover it and bring it out. And our ancestors, reinforce this message again and again through different words. Words are very important. So even namaste means I bow to the divine within you, right? So which is both showing respect to the divine within you and also a challenge to you that please discover the divine within you, right? And those who we worship as gods and goddesses are those who discover the divine within them. That's one of the concepts of divinity in the Indian way. And I think it's one of the most powerful concepts of divinity that one has ever heard anywhere. Because then everything is in our hands. It's up to us whether we want to rise or not.
Right. So one last question that I had meant to ask you was, there was a particular line in this book which said that loyalty is a slippery slope. And we would want your views on that. I mean, loyalty was supposed to be something very good and, much touted about. And this slippery slope makes it, again, contradictory.
Didi,
loyalty is very close to my heart. I value loyalty a great deal. But again, it is the intention. Where is the loyalty coming from? There was a character called Dunuyu in Amish's Ramchandra universe, the Sevak of Manthara. And he's completely loyal to Manthara. But that loyalty is from deep fear, primal fear almost. That is certainly not dharmic. There is the loyalty of Karn, which is indebtedness. And the sense of indebtedness is so acute that Karn loses track of, his own sense of right and wrong. He, Dharm Yuddha mein, where should he be standing? On the side of the Pandavas or the Kauravas? Just the amazing thing with Mahabharata is that, the Pandavas have their weaknesses. The Kauravas have their strengths. But in some sense, had the Kauravas won the Mahabharata, Khatakta, it somehow would not have run right. And Karn, the sixth Pandava, is standing on the side of the Kauravas due to loyalty. So is unquestioning loyalty something to be valued? Then there is the loyalty of Kumbhakarna. And that is the beautiful loyalty. It's the loyalty of love. And Kumbhakarna loves Ravan and is always two steps behind him. Ravan is deeply adharmic. Kumbhakarna is dharmic, and yet he is loyal. But the loyalty comes from the heart. Kumbhakarna never fails to show the mirror to Ravan. Karna never showed the mirror to Duryodhan. Karna never quite loved Duryodhan. He felt indebted. Parvateshwar is loyal to Lord Shiva. He turns his back on Lord Shiva for the sake of Meluha. And yet, he loved Lord Shiva, but was disloyal to him. Brihaspati also was disloyal. He was disloyal to, in some sense, both Lord Shiva and to some extent Meluha. But that disloyalty is not beautiful. It's not from the heart. It is looking towards usefulness. And sometimes disloyalty can be useful. Sometimes disloyalty can even be appropriate. But the thing with disloyalty is it can never be beautiful. Because only loyalty can be beautiful. It's about the heart.
And if I can add, Meenakshi, if I can add one thing to it, what Didi said is it's so true that disloyalty can never be beautiful. Loyalty is beautiful. The problem happens, what if life throws a challenge at you? If you're loyal to someone dharmic, as Hanumanji is to Lord Ram, or Parvateshwar was to Lord Shiva, then the character of the person you're loyal to never puts a dharma sankat in you, right? But what if you happen to be loyal to someone who you should not be loyal to? That may be a judgmental term. What if you happen to be loyal to someone who's adhar, right? Like Karna was to Duryodhan, or Kumbhakarna was to Ravan. Now, life has put you in that very difficult situation. Now what do you do? And this is one of those dharma sankat situations, right? Should you be disloyal? Should you continue to remain loyal? If you are loyal, how should you be loyal? Now, there is one doesn't get into right or wrong in this. It's a difficult situation. Like there was this Western movie called The Reader. I don't know if, Didi, do you remember that? The Reader, it had won an Oscar. This guy, who was in love with a Nazi guard or lady, okay, and he was Jewish. And it was, I think the central point of that movie was, what if you happen to be in love with a monster? Then what do you do? You know?
Yes.
And it's not like the right or wrong in this. It's like a dharm sankat. You're loyal to someone who's adharmic. Now you're stuck in that situation. Ab kya karna chahiye? Is loyalty beautiful? Is it not beautiful? Should you continue to remain loyal? But how do you show the mirror to the person? It's a difficult situation. And this challenge is not forced on those who are loyal to dharmic. This challenge is forced on those who life has put in a situation where you are loyal to someone who's other. It's a difficult situation. What do you do?
And so there is a last question. And thank you. I mean, I must thank both of you. So it has been a wonderful session. And our Metaphor family, who's been watching through YouTube, through Facebook, and different sources, we are live at 3 places. So they are giving their heartfelt thanks to both of you. And there's a last question from the audience, which is by Rajat. And he says, sometimes we do things in our life considering them as a part of our dharma or duty, but we don't get the expected results, or people consider the deed as adharma. So what are your views on this? I think you have very much talked about this earlier, but a one line would suffice or something.
That's a biggest thing. I don't remember which book of mine I wrote that in. That how do you decide whether? No, actually, we explored it in this book on Dharma only. How do you decide whether an action is dharmic or not? Is it on your intentions? Is it on the consequences of those actions? Is it? And when do you decide the consequences of that actions? Immediately, 50 years later, 100 years later? It's a little complex. You never know. Therefore, you try and do it with the best of your intentions. And then the rest, as Lord Krishna said, karmani vadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Perhaps that's the only way to look at it.
What came to my mind was, the song of a very old movie, a Manoj Kumar movie called Das Nambari. कर्म किए जा फल की इच्छा मत कर है इंसान, जैसे कर्म करेगा वैसे फल देगा भगवान.
Right, who are we to decide? And that it has been a wonderful session. I would like to, I would take the liberty of reciting a couplet from your book, and it's a shlok that you have used for Goddess Saraswati in your preface in this book, which says, Apurva kopi koshyam vidyate tav bharati vyasto vriddhi mayati shaya mayati sanchayat. And which means, O Goddess Saraswati, your treasure is unique in nature and it increases when it is freely spent and gets destroyed if it is hoarded and not shared with others. So thank you for sharing your treasure of knowledge with all of us here and through your books also. And on this note, I wish both of you immense success in your upcoming endeavors. And we hope to keep reading more and more books from you both, and love to have more sessions with you both also. So thank you very much for giving your time. And it was a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Meenakshi. All our love to the Metaphor team. Thank you so much for all your support to Kanak and to all you fine people in Lucknow. And once travel restrictions are down, we'll hopefully certainly look forward to coming to it.
Definitely, that would be a high point. I remember Ishkwaku with you had come to us also at that time. So thank you, Bhavna, and thank you, Amish, from all of us. It was wonderful having both of you on this platform. And thank you to our dear audience also, who have been patient and kind enough to be staying. Thank you very much. And have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. God bless.